right. Hey, what's up, everybody? Today we have for you our first guest of this new interview series that we're going to be doing. We're super excited for you all to meet him and hear from him. He is a huge part of the Knee Chest Club at Life West. And honestly, if it wasn't for him, there would not be a Knee Chest Club at Life West. So we are super grateful for him and the mentorship that he's given us. He works at the specific centers in Chico, California. And so let me introduce to you Dr. Jason Gonzales.
Well, thanks for having me on today.
Thank you so much for coming this morning, Doc. So let's get right into the questions. First off, where did you go to school and when did you graduate?
I went to school at Life West, like many of you watching the video. I graduated in 2008, the very beginning of 2008. So I've been out now for, what's the math on that? Quite some time, 12 or 16 years now I've been out. Holy smokes.
That's a long time, but that means more experience, right?
It does, yeah.
That's good. And what did you actually do after you graduate? Did you associate, open up your own practice?
Yeah, so when I was in school, I did not get on the upper cervical track right away. I kind of got introduced to Carrick Neurology. You guys probably heard of that, the neurology program, pretty early on in school. And the person that introduced me to it was, seemed very impressive, seemed like they knew their stuff inside and out. And I was like, that seems like I want to do something like that. So throughout school, I did a lot of the diplomate seminars and stuff while I was going through school. And that was on the, that was very much on my mind. So when I graduated, I intended to open up my own office, kind of basing it on a neurological based, technique, if you will. And then not until I got out of school and actually began to talk to some banks and things that I realized that opening my own office was just a pipe dream. I did not have all the things necessary that a bank would want. So to be honest with you, I kind of scrambled for a little bit. I moved out to Chico, which is a small sort of, agriculture-based Northern California town. There's a university here, so it does have some, some younger crowd, but it's a smaller town and there wasn't a lot of options to be an associate. So I literally just called around to all the other docs in town and knocked on some doors and met people for lunch and asked them if they know any other colleagues that are busy enough to have an associate. And I didn't find an associate position in Chico. I had to go up to Red Bluff, which is an even smaller town north of Chico by about 45 minutes. And oddly enough, this guy up in Red Bluff had a crazy busy practice. He was seeing, in terms of patient visits per week, and I was there for almost a year. I made it 11 months before I just about quit, and that's another story. But he was seeing about 650 to 750 patient visits a week.
Wow.
In a town of 18,000. So it was kind of an eye-opening experience and kind of took away the excuse of, you need a town of a certain size to have a busy practice. That's certainly not the case. Now, looking back and kind of applying some of the things I know now, I wouldn't want to repeat that experience, and nor would I think that's a good one. I mean, the 650 visits a week were, a third of that in people, 200 and something people coming 3 times a week. That's where all the visits came from, so it wasn't quite as impressive at face value, but that's kind of my route out of school. So things, I had all my plans and I thought I had all my ducks in a row, and then life happens to you sometimes, and I had to quickly pivot and find something else. But to be honest with you, Kira, thank goodness that happened, because even at that point, upper cervical was not on my mind. I still was thinking I would try to find a way to get back to doing the Carrick stuff once I just, weathered the storm of being an associate, kind of took the concept of I'll just do what I have to until eventually I can do what I want to. And so I did what I had to for about a year. And while I was in that associate position, it's a super busy clinic. The main doc is, seeing mainly the patients. And so myself and there was another associate there kind of doing all the x-rays and the exam and that kind of stuff. And that's what turned me back on the upper cervicals, because the other associate that I was working with, just coincidence, serendipitous, the stars aligned. He was very passionate about upper cervical, and he graduated Life West a couple years before I did, doing the upper cervical, doing knee chest, in fact. But he could not figure out how to get the business viable financially. Marketing is a big part of running a business. Even if you're a great, clinician, no one knows about that until you market, and that's sometimes can be difficult or tricky. So he thought that he would shut down his kind of floundering knee chest practice and go be an associate for a super busy office and just kind of learn the ropes and just be in that environment and be in that space and kind of hopefully extract and figure out what he was doing wrong in his knee chest practice, and then go back and do that. So while he was doing that, I happened to be in the same office. And so he and I would go back and forth on cases, and
Mhm.
I would kind of talk to him about, with my not diplomate level, but with my character exposure and training, like how I might manage the case or what I would be looking for. And he would always be talking about, well, I would scan them, and then I would want to take different X-rays to look at this, and it was always interesting and always made so much sense. Which is, once you're out in practice, you'll find out a lot of your patients will say that back to you in the initial couple of visits, like, doc, that just makes a lot of sense. And it did, and I had gone through 3.5 years of chiropractic school, and kind of glossed over upper cervical along the way, thinking it really wasn't, all that special. And then once I was in the trenches of clinical practice and trying to actually help people, paying quite a bit of money for help, I was like, that seems, what his concepts and the way he would talk about it and what he would do seemed to make more sense. And I was like, how do you go back and learn that? Because I was quickly realizing in my 11 months that I was at the office, that style of practice was just not meeting my needs clinically. Like, I got into school wanting to help people, but wanting to help people in a way that it was, made sense. I didn't want to wake up and just shoot from the hip every day and kind of have to guess what was going on. And I didn't
Right.
feel like I was super intuitive. Some people feel like they can sense energies and whatnot. And, maybe you can, I don't know, but I didn't feel like I was one of those people. And so it's like, I need something more tangible to guide my decisions,
Mhm.
uh, palpation and, just kind of doing the usual stuff wasn't getting it done for me. And I didn't feel good about some of the decisions I was making day in and
Mhm.
day out, because I was like, I don't know why I did that. I don't know what I'm going to do with them next time I see them. And, it doesn't really matter. I'm always going to do something. And that
Mhm.
didn't really satisfy me as much as I thought it would. I wanted more of a roadmap of what to do and that kind of thing. And after 11 months of being in that environment, I came back and I told my wife, I was like, either I'm finding something else to do with my life, or I need to get out of this office and do something different.
No.
And so that guy that I was talking to, the other associate, I told him that, and he's like, hey, listen, take another look at upper cervical. Obviously, you're intrigued by our conversation. So he put me back in touch with Dr. Shane Smith, the
Mhm.
doc I work with now, who was practicing back in Chico. So again, all serendipitous. It all kind of had to happen for a reason, I think.
Mhm.
So this, lo and behold, in my own town, which is kind of rare to have a knee chest doc, in your town. There's not a whole lot of us out there. He
Right.
was already practicing, getting his own office up and running. He'd been practicing for about 3 years. And I talked to him and I was like, hey, listen, I need to do something else within chiropractic. And he wasn't busy enough to have an associate, but he had an extra room, an extra table. And he's like, if you go learn how to do this, you can come practice here and just grow your office from nothing. And so he put me back in touch with Dr. Sean Dill, and
Mhm.
Dr. Lacey Book wasn't in the picture back then, but Dr. Sean Dill and Dr. Andy Roberts were running the knee chest training program back then. And so I went back for a year. So it was 1 weekend a month for an entire year. While I was doing that, I just got a regular job in Chico. I was actually a taxi cab
Oh,
dispatcher, graveyard shift taxi cab dispatcher for like
wow.
6 months. Um, so that's super motivating to get my ass back into a chiropractic clinic. I did not want to do
Mhm.
that forever. So I learned the basics through the program. And then after I was, a certain point in the program, I got back in Chico and I began to market, and Dr. Shane, gave me a couple of patients to start, and I just got the ball rolling from there.
Mhm.
And that's how I found, kind of chiropractic, or that's how I found upper cervical. So it was an
Nice.
after I graduated kind of thing for me, but it's the only thing that kept me in the game. If I were
Mhm.
still doing a different type, well, I don't think I would be at this point. 13 years later, I would be doing something different
Totally.
that fit, checked all the boxes for me. It finally married the philosophy, which we all fall in love with, I think,
Mhm.
in school, and that's what gets us to school. A lot of us is the holistic philosophy, and this was the approach that I finally feel married the actual application and the philosophy. Whereas I feel like others, there's some pretty significant gaps in the application as it compared to a philosophy.
Totally. Yeah, that's so cool. I love that, even though you didn't find upper cervical in school, you were still able to somehow was able to find you basically, and that you
Yeah,
really like immersed yourself in all of that. That's amazing.
yeah, I was still, that, I don't know if it's an REM song or something, or no
Mhm.
YouTube, but I hadn't found what I was looking for yet. I was
Yeah.
still looking. I was in practice and I had checked all the boxes, but there was something that just wasn't getting it done for me, and not until I
Mhm.
found upper cervical, and then inside of that knee chest, I was like, okay, this I can see myself doing for a career
Totally.
and never getting bored with it, loving
Hmm.
every day of it.
Yeah, I love that. Following up on all of that, what is your chiropractic why? Like, what got you into chiropractic in the first place?
Yeah, so with me, it was a couple of things. One, it was my background before school. At one point in time, I fancied myself, maybe I could be a professional athlete, like we all have those type dreams when we're kids, astronaut, veterinarian, baseball
Yeah.
player, whatever. So for me, the sport that I kind of just did the most when I was younger and got pretty good at was cycling. And so chiropractic was a way that we were able to keep ourselves in shape.
Hmm.
Chiropractic, people who are in sports, look at acupuncture and massage, chiropractic, not just ways to manage aches and pains and issues like
Hmm.
most people or whatever, but we were looking at that as a way to maximize our performance, right? So I knew that there was some holistic, some unleashing of potential stuff with chiropractic, and it seemed more empowering and just altogether just I like those vibes better than the medication and some of the
Hmm.
other more mechanistic stuff. And once I realized it wasn't going to be professional, athlete, I wasn't that good. I knew I wanted to do something in that health and wellness space, and I kept going back to my experience as a chiropractic patient, and I was like, they always seem to love what they do. They're on their feet. They use their hands. They're not stuck behind a desk all the time. They seem to run their own little small little office. And I was like, that seems like a good life choice. I could see myself doing that. And so I wasn't super knowledgeable or passionate per se about chiropractic as a healing technique. I appreciated
Okay.
it, but I was also attracted to just a lifestyle it might be able to afford me. And
Hmm.
I knew I didn't want to work behind a desk all the time. I knew I wanted to be um, have a little bit of a working relationship with people that I was, working with my clients, customers, whatever, not just a number on a screen and that kind of thing. And chiropractic checked all the boxes for me. It wasn't until I got to school that I realized, holy smokes, there's different ways of doing this. I thought like chiropractic is what, my chiropractor did. That's what all of them
Hmm.
did, and then all of a sudden I was like, holy smokes, there's pediatrics, geriatric, neurology, upper cervical, all these things. And I didn't realize that until I even got to school.
That's so cool. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
most people really do think it's just one thing, everyone does it, but there's hundreds of techniques. There's so many different ways to approach it. And obviously, you found what works for you and works for your patients. So I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
I think it's important to find
Yeah.
what works for you, because once
Hmm.
you do what you do, once you know what you do well, then you'll find the people that need that thing. You know what I mean?
Exactly. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last question. So, what is your favorite hobby outside of chiropractic? If you were to choose one or two.
Certainly something that's physical. Like I got into chiropractic from racing bikes. I think a funny story I always mention in introduction and stuff is in 1998 I raced against Lance Armstrong
That's so
before he
cool.
got on his Tour de France kick.
Hmm.
So yeah, I would probably say racing bikes back then, and then now that I got a family, a couple of kids, and everything, honestly, like taking a nap and going to the park are probably my favorite activities outside of the office.
I love the honesty in that.
Yeah, there's a lot to manage. And for the students out there that are watching this, you think you're busy when you're in school, all your classes and your finals and your midterms and everything. And it's a whole different ball game when you get out.
Totally.
Yeah,
Totally. Can't wait
it's
for that.
fun. Yeah, it's a fun ball game, but it's a different ball game.
Totally. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Jason, for taking the
Of
time out of
course.
your busy day to hop on this call with us. Super excited for the students to get to know you a little bit more and interact with you as you come out this way for club. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for your time. You guys have a great day.
Thank you. You
All
too.
right, take care.
All right, guys. So if you enjoyed that video, make sure to like it and share with all of your friends. We encourage you to interact with this video, drop a comment below, interact with Dr. Jason. He loves, hanging out and talking with the students. So just make sure to do that. And if you see this on the screen, it's our QR code for our social media. So that links to our Instagram and our Facebook page. Make sure to follow those pages so that you can stay up to date with all the things going on with club. We will see you Thursday at lunch in room 150, and then Friday morning at 9:20 in room 141 for practice drills. Thanks so much, guys, and I hope you have a great day.